The Cleveland Mission. The Cleveland Mission. The Cleveland Mission. Oh, go ahead.
Shalom.
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 Happy Sabbath again.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
This is Waco Israel Ministries, giving all honor and praise for the Sabbath to the Most High God, Ahayah, through His Son Yashayah, and the Holy Spirit, the Ruach Kudash.
Yes, sir.
For this Holy Sabbath. And as promised, we will be going into,
We're coming back to Pagan Christianity book, which I hope by now many of you have received it through Amazon.
When we first got this, we went directly into it and started breaking down the many paganisms within the Christian religion. And tonight, we're going to go into tithing and clergy salaries. We're going to show you how people began to believe that it was, or what it was to acceptable to give a man 10% of the money that you earn a week.
They score spots on the wallet. That's what they're doing. So, you want to speak for a while?
So, when you think about it, if you're given 10% a week, you're given, and there's usually 4 weeks to a month. You're one person or one family. You're given a pastor 40% of your money for that month. No wonder you have no money.
Every Sunday.
And sometimes every Wednesday. So you're doing it twice in a week.
And they really believe that the Most High is blessing them, Josh, for it. Josh, cool. You look at it. It's all no sweat on. I'll talk for a minute. Yeah. What, don't look nice. Will a man rob God? Malachi. There's so much deception in that teaching in the church. Can't go for a second. So
before
Josh will break it down. I'm just going to read.
Before we touch that, we're going to discover what it meant to tithe as well, and actually how much was expected of you to tithe. Right?
Absolutely.
So we're going to discover a lot of things tonight.
A lot of truths about
so
why you shouldn't tithe.
We must understand how we got to certain points, even with church and religion, and why it is the way it is. What is the necessity of you giving a person over the span of a month 40% of your gross pay, of your gross?
Wow. Will a man rob God?
So we want to understand, and we're also going to show you, go into the whole Malachi thing, because the book of Malachi 3, chapter 3 is the go-to text that every Christian pastor will go to.
Oh yeah, tell you that you have to give money
to obligate you to give them your money.
Come on.
When nowhere in the New, Old, both Testaments commands you to give any person any money whatsoever.
That's right. You can offer, you can give an offering, or
But I want to touch on some other things before
Sure.
we go into the book.
Sure.
Hold on.
This has been going on, Tony, how many centuries, right?
Yeah.
Centuries. Pastors robbing the church, taking money from them, and then claiming they don't really need their money. They were rich already, so they became pastors. And that's the biggest lie I ever heard. They only get rich by your tithing. They only get money by you giving money to them. Yes, some of them work, and everybody should work. Paul worked, but they're not all working. They're dependent on the church to support them. And
Exactly.
you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to give a man of God a house, a home, furniture, send their children to the best schools in the country. That's heresy. And you know that's true. Half your people in the church are struggling. Half the children that go to Christian church don't even go to a good school, a good college. What? What do you want?
Let's go through.
Watch what? You got that? Okay. Where do you want to go, Josh?
I want to go into Exodus to open up.
Okay.
Exodus 20, 17 through 20, 17 through 21,
Right.
or 17 through 20.
What chapter?
20.
2017 to 20. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So we're in Exodus 20, right? Starting at 17. $19, $18, $17. Okay. Oh, you said 20 or 28?
Yeah, 2017 through 20.
Exodus 20.
Exodus 20 and 17 through 20.
Right. Okay. They've got Christians lied to, Tony. All right, that they have to have a new car and a home because they're the pastor. It's never been far from the truth. That's, you know.
So we will go into this. Here, right now. We're in the King James Bible, Exodus 20, 17 through 20.
Okay. Okay. 17. Right? Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house.
I mean, okay, 18.
Oh, start at 18?
18.
All right, hold on.
Verse,
All right, Exodus
18.
20, verse 18.
read.
And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings, and the noise of the trumpet, and the mountain shaking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off.
So what happened was God commanded earlier in the chapter, and actually in Exodus 19, for Moses to bring the Israelites up to talk to him personally, because he didn't want the Israelites to think that Moses was his mouthpiece, a mouthpiece. In other words, that he couldn't speak to them personally. So God, the Most High, from the beginning, has built us to have a personal relationship with Him beyond the control of a clerical person.
Come on,
Right?
that's right. We all have that gift to talk to the Most High.
The Israelites were afraid. So the what was going on here was it's not that God didn't want it, the Most High didn't want to speak to them individually. They felt like they weren't good enough for God to deal with them personally, one-on-one.
Right.
So that is always been man's problem. So they put another person in a mediator position when that person was never meant to be in that position.
That's right.
Read verse 19. Verse 19 again. I think. Did you read 19, or did you just read 18?
18.
Read verse 19.
And they said unto Moses.
And who said?
And they said unto Moses.
So the Israelites said this. So God, the Most High here, the Most High commanded them to come to him to speak to him without Moses. Now they said to Moses, read.
Speak thou with us.
Speak thou with us.
And we will hear. But let not the Most High speak with us, lest we die.
So they didn't want God to deal with them personally because they were afraid of him.
Wow. And Moses said unto...
So people put men in their way because they are afraid of God dealing with them personally.
Amen.
This is the picture, or the real world application of how this applies today. People today do the same thing with their pastors. The majority of them.
Oh, that's my pastor.
They would rather you put the pastor in your way than you talk to them personally, because they don't really know what they're talking about.
And Moses said unto the people, fear not.
So Moses said, don't be afraid of the Most High.
For the Most High is come to prove you, test you.
So,
and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not.
What is sin?
Not keeping the law and the commandments.
So God tries us to see if we will keep his law.
Wow.
So the main reason people put people in an unnecessary position is they are insecure and they don't want God to deal with them. They feel like they need a mouthpiece instead of them.
Right.
So they put their deacon, their pastor, their Bible their Bible teacher in the way. So they feel like, and that's what the church system does to you mentally.
So Josh, they're not really hearing from God then.
It makes you feel like you need people in the way of you and God.
Wow. So in other words, when they go to them and intercede for the people, the Most High is not really talking to them. He wants to talk to the people.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So those are good precepts for you to have. Okay, everybody, hold on. I just wanted to show you some things, dust up some old precepts. Before we delve into the book. Okay, hold on.
Wow. How true. How true. How true what we're hearing tonight. How true. And and what's the response, Tony, I get out there when I tell somebody the truth? Oh, I'm going to ask my pastor.
Hold on, brothers and
Why ask the
sisters.
pastor when you can get on your knees and pray? And he'll show you. And he'll reveal to you. You feel like you're not good enough? Why go to
Absolutely.
church? Right? Right, Tom?
Yeah.
He didn't create us not to hear from him. He didn't create us not to walk with him. He created us for that reason. You can't just say you're walking with him and you obey him when you're not hearing. It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
It's like coming to a traffic light, right? We're coming to a stop sign. You see it. It reads you, right? Go and you don't go, right? What happens? Someone hits the back of you.
Yep. Get rear-ended.
Uh-huh. And that's what happens in life. They get rear-ended. They get despondent. They get discouraged. They want to go to another church and hear another sermon. Another lie.
Hold on, brothers and sisters.
So who puts the signs up in the world? The Most High. All right? Don't take that road. Danger. All right? Cliffs. Alligators. This, that, he warns you. Stay on the left road. Does the word say, keep your eyes straight? Don't look to the left or to the right?
Yep.
The straight road is the narrow road that leads to life. And only few find it. It's hard to put a number on that few. It could mean a few billion, few million, few hundred, I don't think it's few hundred.
Well, it could mean anywhere from hundreds to trillions.
Right,
So
right.
it's like,
Yeah, but don't count on that. Because there's less people in heaven. In Abraham's bosom than there is in hell, brother. You talk to some pastors about that? Oh, they'll argue that, man. They'll tell you, no, hell is small, heaven's huge, billions of it. Don't count on it. Can't be. Not if the billions have sinned against him. All right? Every Sunday they're sinning.
Let's go to the book It took me a second to find it. Samuel. 1
Second-
Samuel 8.
1 Samuel. Okay,
1 Samuel chapter 8.
I got it. 1 Samuel. And there you can read it. 1 Samuel 8. Where, Josh? What verse?
Hold on. I will tell you.
We're trying to lay out a platform for you, so with these precepts, you'll have a good understanding about this giving of your money. Why would the Most High want your electric money, Tony? Why would He make you struggle to bring money to a church, right? The word church is not true in the Bible either. I don't believe it is, but that's another time. He never called you to give
1 Samuel 8,
money to be broke.
start with verse 3.
Verse 3. Go ahead, Mary.
Now, we're going
Wait.
here to show you an example of now how the Israelites still did this, even under the prophets and the judges. Read.
And his son
Come on.
walked not in his ways, but turned aside after
Luca.
and took bribes.
Wow.
So Samuel's sons were walking contrary to the laws of God and taking bribes for money. They were being,
And perverted.
you know,
And judgment.
Good, sorry.
wait a minute. You know what this just,
Perverted judgment, Josh.
you know what this is? So a perverted person will ask money for you
From you.
to tell you to
Come on.
to tell you about the Most High.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wow, they got him fooled, huh, Josh? Wow.
So these young men were perverting the judgments of God and being paid. So that's letting you know your pastor is lying to you because you're paying him.
Where does it say you got to pay a pastor in the Bible? There's nowhere.
Whatever you, a man will tell you whatever it takes for you to give him to fund his lifestyle. Not that he has a lifestyle per se, but
Most do.
but not including the lifestyle part of it.
Okay.
People will pay you to tell them what they want to hear.
There you go. That's itching.
And that's what was going on here. These sons of Samuel the prophet were walking out of the commandments of God and requiring people to pay them to be their priest.
Wow. Just
Which
like
is-
today.
Which is just like your pastor today. They're not walking in the laws of God and they're being paid to do it.
Wow. Identical, huh?
I just seen this.
That's awesome.
Read that verse again, Mom. Verse 3?
Yeah,
And
3.
his sons
And Samuel's sons, read.
walk not in his ways,
So what are his ways? His laws, right?
Statutes, judgments, that's right.
Read.
but turned aside after lucre,
What is lucre?
money,
Money
Chasing money.
or financial profit.
Gain, that's right.
and took bribes,
And did what?
and took bribes,
They bribed the people. They
and
told them they're going to get rich.
prevented judgment,
Perverted.
Perverted.
judgment.
So what is the end result of someone being paid to minister, be a paid preacher to you? Perverted judgment and bribes. He's bribing you.
So tell them, Josh, that's why there's no real truth in the church. There's no truth there. You just better wake up,
And
Christians.
this is something I just saw when I just looked at, it's been a while since we've been in this passage, and this just came to my mind. This is how real the Bible is. It's so prophetic and deep. And we're going to go into the book. I just want to read a couple more verses. Read.
Go ahead.
Then all the elders
Then all the elders of Israel, read,
gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah
read,
and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy way.
read,
Now make us a king.
do what?
Make us a king.
Do what?
Make us a king.
Now, isn't this the same thing they tried to do with Moses
Yep.
on Mount Horeb?
Yep.
They tried to make Moses a king over them.
To judge us like all the nations.
Stop. Whenever you try to put a person above you, instead of, think about the foolishness of this. The Israelites had the Most High God defending them, right?
That's right.
Fighting their battles, defeating their enemies, right? Why do you need a man?
Come on. Come on.
Why do you need a
Absolutely.
king?
That's right.
Why do you need Moses when you can speak to God for yourself? Because the elders of Israel had got used to because people always, instead of wanting God to deal with them, they always put a person in front of them, and they don't want God dealing with them, so they expect that person to be a mouthpiece.
Right. So, Josh, what you're really saying too, also, I want to bless
A
you.
king is like a pastor,
Yeah.
pretty much.
So, in other words, everything's got to be spontaneous. Paul did say, one bring a song, right? One bring this, one bring that. But, Tony, that doesn't mean you sit down and be quiet after that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not saying that.
Read.
See how they twist the words?
Make us a king to rule us as the other nations. Read.
Go ahead, man.
But the thing displeased Samuel.
But the thing did what?
Displeased Samuel.
What verse are we in?
6.
6.
Oh, okay, but the thing,
Displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us.
wow.
And Samuel prayed unto
The Most High.
And the Most High said unto Samuel, hearken unto the voice of the people.
He told them, give them what they want.
Yeah, in
Read.
all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected the Most High,
Read.
that I should not reign over them.
So they would rather a man rule them and protect them than the Most High.
Wow.
according to all the works which they have done since the day that brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and serve other gods.
Wow.
So do they also unto thee.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So now
Yeah.
let's go into the book.
Now you know why the church is in trouble. Now you know why there's so much sin there.
Now let's go into pagan Christianity,
Okay.
chapter 8.
I know many of you have this book already. If you don't, please get it.
Tithing. We're gonna discover in the.
Yeah, there.
Hold on. Yeah, that's where we're gonna stop. So
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to read. Josh's going to break it down.
read.
I'll read the best I can. These are not my prescription glasses, but I'll do the best I can. Will a man rob God? It's the Most High, but I'll say God because if you don't know what his real name is. Yet you rob me. But you ask, how do we rob you? In tithes and offerings. You are under a curse, the whole nation of you, because you are robbing me. Bring the whole tithe unto the storehouse.
So the Bible clearly says
And the
to
church
bring
is not
the
the
whole
storehouse.
tithe, not a tenth, but the whole.
Come on. That there may be food. No, that there may be money in my house.
Read.
That there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Most High Almighty. And see, watch this. If I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven, rain, and pour out you such a blessing that you will not have, watch this, room enough for it. Now, Malachi 3:8 says 10. Why he was sending rains? Because the insects, Josh, right? They were destroying the ground.
Mhm.
They were destroying the food, the crops, not money. You see how they twist things?
Read.
Okay. This passage seems to be many Christians leaders' favorite Bible text, especially when giving is at low tide. If you have spent any time in the contemporary church, you have heard this passage read from the pulpit on numerous occasions. Consider some of the erotic that goes with it. God has commanded you to faithfully give your tithes. Where is that? If you do not tithe, you are robbing God. Where does it say that?
So now he's
Where does
now
it say that?
the authors of the book are laying out some things that your pastor will use to guilt trick you
That's right.
into giving money to him.
You are robbing God Almighty,
So
and you put yourself under a curse. What a
So-
lie.
so they'll tell you you're robbing God, you're cursed, and
Wow.
God needs you to tithe,
Wow.
as if God needs your money.
Yeah, that's right.
Read.
Your tithes and offerings are necessary if the Most High's work will go on. God's work, of course, includes paying the pastoral staff and footing the monthly electric bill to keep the building afloat. Yeah, there's no problem.
But you're not supposed to pay a pastor or his staff.
That's right.
Biblically
Come on.
speaking, if you read the Old and New Testament, Moses was a shepherd, Abraham was a shepherd, Jacob were shepherds,
Come on.
the apostles were fishermen. In other words, they all worked. Paul was a Pharisee and a tent maker. They had paying jobs. They did not live off of the congregation's money. Right?
That's right. Come on.
So when the Bible says that they had all things in common, that
Mhm.
means they all had things in common. They all worked, and
No one lacked. Right.
No one took money
Right.
from the other person unless the money was distributed.
Like say I was a pastor. All right.
They would lay the money at the apostles' feet,
Right.
and they would distribute it
That's right.
throughout the congregation, so the poor, the needy, the strangers, and the widows, and the sick, and everyone got taken care of.
And what?
Where is that happening in your
And
church?
what did he say? No one lacked. Everybody had everything in common. There was no covetousness then. They didn't come into church and say, "Oh, I want what Bill has," right? Hey, I want what Tony has, right?
Mhm.
They had everything the same. That's why they did that. Now you got jealousy in the church. Your tithes and offerings are okay. What is the results of the sort of pressure? The Most High's people are persuaded to give 1/10 of their income every week. Wow, where is that? When they do,
So if you add that up, that's 40% of your monthly money going to a preacher.
yeah, keep doing it because they ain't getting ours. What they do, they feel they have made the Most High happy, and they can.
So in other words,
Come on, Joe.
by doing this, you feel like you're giving you, and this is the idea they'll put in your head, that if you tithe, God will bless you. So God cannot bless you unless you tithe.
Wow. And they can't expect him to bless them financially.
Read.
When they fail, they feel they are being disobedient. That's the guilt trip. And they
So
worry.
if you don't tithe, if you go to church, you feel guilty.
That's right. They make you feel guilty.
because the pastor has put a guilt conscience on you over what you give or don't give, as if God needs you to give him, the pastor, your money.
Watch this. And they worry that a financial curse looms over them. But let's take a few steps backward and ask the penetrating question. Does the Bible teach us to tithe? And are we spiritually obligated to fund the pastor and his staff?
So are you obligated
You
if
are
you
not.
go to church
You
to
are
fund a man and people who work for him? Or are they supposed to fund themselves by having jobs outside of the church or outside of the assembly?
Come on.
Read.
But let's take a few steps backward. Oh, okay. And okay. The answer to these two questions may shock you.
Read.
Is tithing biblical? Tithing does appear in the Bible. So yes, tithing is biblical, but it is not Christian. The tithe belongs.
In other words, it's not in the New Testament.
Come on, it's right. Why? Because the church teaches the law is done away with.
Read.
The tithe belongs to ancient Israel.
So in other words, scripturally, tithing only applied to when Israel had a land and a nation.
And food. It was essentially their income tax.
So tithing was to take care of the priests,
Come on.
the Levites. So when Malachi wrote Malachi chapter 2 and 3, he wasn't talking to the whole nation of Israel. If you actually read those two chapters
That's
carefully, the Levites were considered a nation in the nation of Israel.
That's right.
Because every single tribe was a nationality of its own.
Never do you find first century Christians tithing in the New Testament. Numerous Christians do not have the foggiest idea about what the Bible teaches regarding the tithe.
Okay, read.
So let's look at it.
Mm-hmm.
The word tithe simply means the 10th part.
So far we've learned some interesting things, right? Tithing only was supposed to apply to a nation of people, not to an assembly of people outside of that nation biblically. Read.
The Most High.
We've also learned that the pastors will use certain guilt trick tactics to trick you into paying them.
Yeah, make you feel guilty is right. The Most High instituted 3 kinds of tithes for Israel as part of their taxation system.
These are the 3 type of tithes that Moses, Aaron, and the Levites instituted for the Israelites. Read. A
tithe of the produce of the land.
A tithe of the produce of the what?
The produce of the land.
The produce.
Food to support the Levites.
So what is the produce of the land?
Food. Grain.
Fruits, vegetables, grain, wheat, barley, dairy,
everything.
Animals even.
Right.
Because animals live off the land.
To support the Levites
To support the who?
Levites who had no inheritance in Canaan. Wow.
So the Levites, or the priests of the Most High, had no inheritance. In other words, and that was the purposely so they would serve him. They were supposed to be wandering ministers.
That's right.
Biblically, a pastor is not supposed to really be in one place for a long time. He's supposed to travel and wander, right? He's supposed to not have an inheritance off of the people that he supports or ministers to. In other words, the people that he ministers to are not part of his lifestyle.
Oh, I see. So the only time they put money into food into money was they couldn't carry it into Jerusalem. It was too heavy.
or they would exchange their food and get money and give it to the Levites,
I see.
and the Levites would give the money collected.
So what you're saying, John?
Wait, so what would happen was in Jerusalem, you would come, you would make your offering, your clean animal offering, right? Or what you would do is you would give the offering to the priest. They would exchange. You would exchange the animal for money, give the money back to the priest.
Come on.
And the priest would give the money to the poor, the
There
strangers,
you
the
go.
widows,
Oh.
and the people who needed the money.
No, they would buy cars and homes.
So exactly when we see the apostles, the people in Acts, right, in Acts 3 and 4, laying the goods at the feet of the apostles and the apostles distributing it, that is a Levitical practice.
That's right.
That they did under the law.
Wow.
Under the law of Moses.
Listen, a tithe of the produce of the land to sponsor religious festivals in Jerusalem. If the produce was too burdensome, not heavy, can't carry it, for a family to carry to Jerusalem, they could, not would, they could, if they want to, convert it into money.
Now read that sentence again.
A tithe of the produce of the land to sponsor the religious festivals
right
in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
If the produce was
if what they were carrying to Jerusalem or wherever the Levite was, read.
If the produce was too burdensome for a family to carry to Jerusalem, they could convert it into money.
They could convert it into money. Read.
A tithe of the produce of the land collected every third year. Look at that.
So tithing biblically did not happen every week.
See?
It only happened every 3 years.
3 years.
Wait a minute.
Wow, watch out.
Read that again, because that amazed me when I read it earlier today.
A tithe of the produce of the land collected every third year.
No, every week.
Third year.
Every week.
Third year. For the local Levites, orphans, strangers, and widows.
Strangers and widows. So the orphans, the Gentiles, and the unmarried women got taken care of by the pastor.
Hold on now. If that's every 3 years, then Tony, they must have had some refrigeration going on then. Right? Yeah, yes, sir.
Or they converted it for a lot of money.
Well, yeah, but they had to take care of the food, Mary. It had to be taken care of.
There was no refrigeration.
But they had to use something, Tony. Unless they sold all the stuff that had to be, distributed. That was cold stuff, John, first.
You mean?
Yeah.
How did they preserve their meat?
Right, and all that stuff.
They just put salt on.
Salt on, right? I thought so. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Wow, every 3 years.
And grains. So no. What would happen was they would kill the animals. Those were sacrifices, and they would store the grain so people could come to them and make breads and stuff.
Okay.
And all the vegetables they would store, the fruits.
Now don't forget. Wait a minute. Now we're forgetting something.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, Tony, guys, the food lasted longer. There was no preservatives.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. This was the biblical tithe of the Most High commanded Israel to give 23:3.
Wait, how much? He commanded Israel to give what?
This was the biblical tithe. Ahayah commanded Israel to give
23.3%. Wait, he did what? How much?
23.
No, 10%.
23.
10.
23.
So 10% is not biblical.
That's right. Of their income every year.
So
every year.
Wait. So not every week. Once a year.
Once a year.
So the pastor is even lying to you about the biblical tithe.
That's right.
The biblical tithe wasn't 10%. The biblical tithe was 23.3%.
Wow.
And that's every year.
Once a
Not
year.
every week, but once a year.
Watch this. Not every year.
So what else are they lying to you about?
That's right.
They are lying to you about everything.
Everything. These tithes constituted the produce of the land, which included.
We're going to read a couple more pages and close.
Yeah, the seed of the land. Yeah, we don't want to read too much. We want you to get this. The fruit of the land and the I want to say something real quick. The herd of the flock, it was the product of the land, not money. Now I want to say something real quick. Hold on, before I forget. Okay, I'll remember. Okay. A clear parallel can be seen between Israel's tithing system and the modern taxation system present in America. Wow.
Read.
Israel was obligated to support their national workers, priests, their holidays, festivals, and their poor strangers,
So
widows,
the
and orphans.
purpose of the tithe was
Give it away.
to take care of the poor,
For them to get
the
rich.
Gentiles who lived amongst the Israelites,
That's right.
The widow.
and the widows and the orphans,
With their annual tithes,
with their weekly tithes.
annual.
Weekly.
Most modern tax systems serve a similar purpose.
Read.
Wow. I hope you're getting this. With the debt of Yashayah, all ceremonial codes that belonged to the Jews were nailed to Christ's tree and buried, never to be used again to condemn us. Oh, wow. For this reason, we never see Christians tithing in the New Testament, just as we do not see them sacrificing goats and bulls to cover their sins.
Absolutely.
Paul writes, when you were dead in your transgressions.
This is Ephesians chapter 2,
Come
verse
on.
1 and 2.
That's
Read.
right. And the uncircumcision of your flesh.
So when we were walking in our flesh and breaking God's laws,
We were uncircumcised, right? He made you alive together with him.
He made us alive through his son.
With Christ, having forgiven us all transgressions, having canceled out the certificate of debt, crossing of degrees against us, which was hostile to
Hold
us.
on.
Wow.
Say something like that, Dad.
Well, I'll stop there. You know, how many years have we been fooled, huh, Mary, Tony, about tithing? You know, I even had a brother come against me in a Christian church in North Carolina and told me, you're under a curse if you don't tithe. I said, I rebuked it. I told him then. I said, I knew that then, Tony. I knew it. I knew it then as a Christian that tithing was a lie. But see, shame on every one of you who are listening tonight, Christians who don't do your research, don't get these books, because your pastors, I know what they tell you. Don't go on YouTube. Don't go get books. The Bible's enough. Yeah, the Bible's enough. As long as they can keep twisting it to you, the Bible's enough. But until you find out the Bible yourself, you won't see tithing in there. Until you break it down. Come on, Josh. Therefore, no one is to act as your judge in regard to food or drink, or in respect of a festival, or a new moon, or a Sabbath day. Things which are a mere shadow of what is to come, but the substance belongs to Yashayah. Josh, come on. Hey. Who is it?
Someone I know.
All right, come on. Oh, you want me to keep reading or just finish here?
Keep reading.
Tithing belongs exclusively to Israel under the law when it comes to financial stewardship. We see the first century Christians giving cheerfully according to their ability, not doubtfully and out of command. Giving in the early church was voluntary, and those who benefited from it were the poor, orphans, widows, sick, prisoners, and strangers. All right.
Read.
How much you want to keep going? We can hear someone making the following objection right now. We can too.
Read.
But what about Abraham? He lived before the law, and we see him tithing to the high priest Melchizedek. Genesis 14:17. Remember I brought the tithing scam? Does this not overturn your argument that the tithe is part of Mosaic law? The same. No, it does not. First, Abraham tithe was completely voluntary. It was not compulsory. The Most High did not command it as he did with the tribe of Israel. Second, Abraham tithed it out of the spoils. Remember I said that? Remember my lesson?
Read.
All right? That he acquired after a particular battle he fought. He did not tithe out of his own regular income or property. Abraham's act of tithing would be akin to you winning the lottery or a mega jackpot or receiving a work bonus, then tithing it. That's it. Third, the most important, this is the only recorded time that Abraham tithed out of his 175 years of life on this earth. We have no evidence that he ever did such a thing again. Consequently, if you wish to use Abraham as a proof text to argue that Christians must tithe, then you are only obligated to tithe one time.
Read.
No, that's enough.
Read.
No, that's enough. It's too much.
Keep reading.
You want to get it. Okay. How much are you going to read? The whole book?
No.
Oh,
Just
this
that
is
one
page?
page.
All
Just
right.
that page.
Yeah, but I'm doing this because I want you to get this. I don't believe in reading that much. Because a lot of you, if you never listened to this and heard this, you might be ignoring it already and saying, oh, so that's why we want you to listen. This is a great book. This is a great book. Pagan Christianity. Get it? Who's it by? Frank Viola and George Branner. This brings us back to the oft-quoted text in Malachi 3. What was God saying there? First, this passage was directed to ancient Israel, which they were under the Mosaic law. Ahayah's people were holding back their tithes and offerings. Consider what would happen if a large portion of a country's citizens refused to pay their taxes. This would be viewed as a form of stealing by many. And in some countries, those unwilling to pay would face consequences. In the same way, when Israel held back their taxes, she was stealing from God, the one who instituted the tithing system. The Most High then commanded his people to bring their tithes unto the storehouse. That means a barn. The storehouse was located in the chambers of the temple. The chambers were a set part to hold the tithes, which were produce, not money, for the support of the Levites, the poor, the strangers, and the widows. In other words, there was a building like a church, didn't look like a church, and you went through a certain couple of doors in the back, right? When you go to Goodwill, and the truck goes in the back and says, bring this stuff in the back.
You know what a granary is?
Right, here you go.
If you live
There you go.
in farmland,
Good
that's
job.
what a storehouse is.
That's
It's
right.
a granary.
It's a
It's
granary.
a granary
That's right.
where you store produce.
Notice the context of Malachi 3:8-10. In verse 5, the Most High says that he will judge those who oppress the widow, the fatherless, and the stranger. He says, so I will come near to you for judgment. I will be quick to testify against sorcerers, adulterers, and prejudices, against those who defraud laborers of their wages. Wow. Who oppress the widows
So
and the fatherless.
when you defraud
Wait, let me
people.
finish. Okay.
So we're not supposed to. If
Okay.
you own a business, you're supposed to pay people honestly.
Right.
You're not supposed to rob them.
Like they're doing in America, especially Florida here. And deprive aliens of justice. But what was a better word for aliens, Josh? And deprive aliens, like strangers? All right.
Mm-hmm.
But do not fear me. All right.
Read.
All right. The widows, fatherless, and strangers were the rightful recipients of the tithe because Israel was withholding her tithes. She was guilty of ignoring the needs of these three groups. Herein is the heart of the Most High in Malachi 3:8-10. He opposes oppression of the poor.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you heard pastors point this out when they preached on Malachi 3? In scores of sermons I have heard on tithing, I was never told what the passage was actually talking about. And I wasn't either after 31 years. Wait, let me finish the page. That is, tithes were given to support the widows, fatherless, strangers, and the Levites who owned nothing. Wow. So, Pastor, you're not supposed to own nothing. You're not supposed to own the house they give you today, the car they give you. Nothing's supposed to be in your name. Nothing.
So we just went into chapter 8 on tithing. Next, when will be time, we will go into the origin of tithing and clergy salaries. Hold on. Let me show you.
If you're a new Christian out there and you haven't heard this, we urge you to get this book. These people know what they're talking about. When we went on 9 years ago, right? Remember my tithing scam message? It was almost close to that, wasn't it, Mary? Almost. And I just came into understanding. We just came into understanding that. And I brought an awesome lesson on the tithing scam. And it's on there. It's on our page. Find it. And now Josh brought it better because now, Josh is understanding. He came into before me. So, we're like a team here, and we encourage each other. So that said, Shalom.
Shalom. Wait, before we say shalom.
Go ahead, Josh.
So far what we've learned, probably the most important, one of the most important points I want you to glean from this is that the tithe was not 10%. The tithe was 23%.
But what? Once
a year.
Once a year, not every Sunday, not every Wednesday like they're doing. They're robbing you.
And
can I say something? Well, here's what I wanted to say before. Hold on, before I forget. Wait, John, just important. Don't think for 1 second that the government, even if they don't get tithes in their church, they'll keep that church open as long as they're not telling the people in there that they're the tribes of Israel. They'll keep it open. They'll support that pastor. The government will. Yes, they will. And they can close it down in a second. It's just like that. Oh, yeah. No pastor owns a church. I don't care what they tell you. We're going to pay it off. Ever hear that crap? Huh? We're going to pay it off this year. We're going to be debt free. Yeah, you're going to be debt free. But they still own the building and the land.
The Levites only collected the land produce every 3 years. So every 3 years and 3 years they would collect. Mm-hmm. Every third year they would collect.
Wow.
The land, the produce of the land, and every 7th year was the Shabbat year, and the whole land rested.
Christians, when you hear in Malachi, and I'll rebuke the devourer for your sake, that means the insects that were on the ground when he opened up the gates of heaven, of the sky, for the rain to come down to kill the insects. That's all that means. It's not the devil. So if you're tithing, I'd stop. Bring food. Insult them. Watch how they look at you. Bring food. Yeah, bring a cake. Yeah, bring a pie. Yeah, bring some apples. They'll throw you out. Shalom.
Shalom.